Hey guys, what's up? This is Marie with Swipe in the City. And today's episode, we're doing things a little bit differently. I know it's not Throwback Thursday, or at least not the day that we release this, but this episode is a bit of a throwback. We actually recorded it with Mike, the producer, back in the summer of 2020. So this was like back when we first started. You could definitely kind of tell in a few places. So honestly, like I didn't do a lot of editing here. I wanted to leave those little nuggets in because frankly, they kind of entertain me. So I hope they entertain you guys as well. I'm really looking forward to hearing y'all's opinions or, feedback on this because I definitely think we could do a follow-up here. So let me know what y'all think. Slide in with us at Swipe and the City on all platforms. And I hope you enjoy. Hey guys, welcome back. This is Marie with Swipe in the City. Here, obviously, with Michelle. And today we've also got our fan favorite, Mike, the producer, in the house.
Yo!
What's up? What's up? As always, we are just super pumped to be recording. I feel like people don't understand how excited we get we call it podcast day, the day that we record. But Marie and I are texting each other, bright and early at 9 a.m. just being cool, we're going to record today.
It gives me something to live for.
This is my passion project.
Really, though.
Some of y'all are baking banana bread and redoing your homes during quarantine. Marie and I are swiping and talking about it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Before we jump into the topic, we want to do our usual beer plug. And today we are so fucking pumped about the newest Nomadic IPA release. It's an Imperial IPA. It is 10%. And goes by the name of Gallivanter. So if you are in Austin and you like a good IPA, go see our friends at Nomadic. Go get your beer. They'll hook you up. Tell them we sent you. But no, I was drinking it in the pool last night, and it was great.
We're just going to leave it there.
It's a casual 10% pool beer.
But it sounds like it's easy to drink.
I mean, always.
Yeah. So today we want to talk about, nice guys in the friend zone because this is something that's kind of come up with us a lot recently. And first, though, Mike, you have recently had some sort of enlightening about nice guys. So can you define that for us?
Yeah, sure. All right. Just to get into it, this whole podcast is about dating and doing the right thing. And I know we have a bunch of guy listeners. So I definitely wanted to dive into the reason why things don't work out for some guys, and it's pretty much the nice guy syndrome. You might not even be or consider yourself a nice guy, but the fact is you're probably making a lot of mistakes when it comes to dating, and it revolves around being more submissive, I want to say, is kind of the biggest thing. And a lot goes into it, so I just kind of wanted to start that as a topic, and we're gonna run through a bunch of different scenarios, I guess, different topics, and pitch it in there.
Michelle, what would a nice guy be to you? If you were to just offhand, if I said, what's a nice guy?
To me, when I think about nice guy, I think about someone who's just not as assertive and maybe a little more passive. And I'm shocking. I'm a pretty strong personality.
No.
What? We're on episode, I don't know what number this is going to be, but if you don't know that yet, then you're probably not actually listening. No, but when I think about a nice guy, for me, it's this sounds really terrible, but I think about someone that I would not intentionally, but I would end up walking all over. And again, I'm not a malicious person, I'm not a controlling person, but someone where they would just always be kind of conceding. Mm-hmm. Which for me, I need someone who's gonna challenge me. And I think nice guy has a different definition for a lot of people, but when I think of it, I think of someone who's always gonna kind of take that passive role and always kind of conceding to what you want or do or say. And I think, that's where a lot of times, because, you know, everyone does want some level of a challenge. Everyone does want someone
or a partner
or a partner. And so that's where I think a lot of times nice guys kind of get left behind, because they give and give and give and give, and then the person just takes advantage of it, even if they don't want to, and it's not intentional. I do think, like, as human beings, like, if someone is constantly just giving, you're naturally going to kind of adjust, and you're probably going to take more, even if you don't realize you're doing it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, to me, nice guys too are like, what's the phrase for women? Like, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I kind of see, like, when I think of a nice guy, I think of the version of that, of like the guy that's like always there, and they're always, you know, they're like holding you when you're crying because you're upset over your boyfriend, and they're there for you, but you don't want to fuck them.
Friend zoned.
Yeah. So that's where that comes in.
Right. What do y'all want to talk about first?
I mean, you just led into friend zone, right? So I think with, like, nice guys in the friend zone, a lot of times what happens is, if we're assuming that there's an interaction before there's any kind of, like, date or this or that, right? So I think for me what happens is, and I just kind of had this situation happen recently where went out with someone, they were super cool, they're great, I would definitely get a beer with them again, but I just didn't see, one of the things was, like, I didn't see that challenge and that push. They seemed like someone who would just be really, again, like, conceding, like, really, I don't know, like, there's another word I'm trying to think of, but essentially I was just like, this person isn't going to, like, push, you know, and I don't know if that's a nice guy, but, like, push me to, like, level up, and or call me out on my bullshit. Because honestly, like, obviously no one wants to be told what to do or controlled, but I do think that there is, like, a level of importance in being able to, like, call someone out on their shit.
Definitely. And I think maybe too, like, maybe they do call you out on your bullshit, but they have kind of a more passive approach to doing that, I think, is also really plausible there. Like, they can be like, hey, Michelle, you know, it kind of really sucks when you do this one thing that I don't really like, but if you're going to keep doing it, that's fine, but I don't really like it. I mean, that's not really taking control for, like, what you want in your life either.
Yeah. And just to clarify, like, talking about nice guys here, like, people think there's nice guys and there's, like, oh, bad boys, and that's not it at all. You can still be a nice guy. You can still be a good human fucking being. You just have to, you know, catch yourself in those passive situations and adjust them. So, like, that particular one, like, you need to be firm. Women are attracted to assertive men. It's in our biology. So if you're firm in everything you do, and you know who you are, and you have that confidence, it bleeds out of you in everyday life. And women will test you subconsciously on it, and they'll sniff it out immediately if you're not in tune with yourself about it.
I think everybody does, and I think you touched on, like, confidence, right? I think that's something that's really important with all of this is whether you're a female dating males or vice versa or whoever, you can tell that the person that you're dating is or is not confident with who they are. And if they're not confident, to Michelle's point earlier, there is some level of, like, kind of wanting to push the boundaries there. And, you know, maybe you're not, like, in a really horrible way, like, taking advantage of somebody, but you're still like, oh, well, I can get away with this, so I'm gonna do it, even though this person is, like, kind of annoyed about it.
Yeah, I also feel like, just kind of as we started talking, it goes both ways, right? So I know the episode's probably going to title, like, nice guys, but I think it's really important to look at it from both sides, because I think there's the same thing with, like, nice girls. So girls who are typically, I would say, like, more, like, shy, like, kind of not necessarily overcompensating, but, like, constantly giving, constantly doing, like, they get taken advantage of too, and or they get passed up where it's like, oh, she's just too nice for me. I feel like that's a thing.
she's just always there for me or whatever.
I mean, someone always being there for you sounds like a positive.
Sounds like, well, I was going to say it sounds like they're kind of lurking, like they're just staring.
Well, I think the idea is like you need to have your own life and you need to have your own foundation, and to avoid codependency, you need to establish, your own hobbies, your own life, your own friends, and then once all that is set in stone, then you can find somebody who you're meant to be with. And if they don't have that same foundation, shit doesn't work out. So yeah, that's what you're getting at.
For sure. Yeah, so let's just look at some of our little notes here. We didn't do a poll on this one, unfortunately, because we just decided to dive into it about an hour ago.
Well, also, I don't really know, honestly, like what we can ask you guys preemptively before getting this episode out. So with that said, like, please, any feedback y'all have or any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, feel free to slide into our DMs or shoot us an email.
Yeah, I'll be checking the email. Bree's like, I don't check my email. I'm like,
oh, no, I have the Swipe in the City Gmail always up.
Perfect. But yeah, no, pretty much like with every episode, feel free to slide in and just let us know your thoughts. And if you have a different opinion, like we do a lot of follow-ups too. So we'll do like we're going to have a shoot your shot part 2 for sure.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, so let's talk about the friend zone and then kind of like physical attraction, right? So I think what happens a lot, especially if you are going from an online interaction to in person, is that you meet the person and you're just not physically attracted to them. You might still have like an awesome time. You might enjoy hanging out with them. But let's talk about like what that looks like where you're like putting that person in the friend zone.
Yeah, and I think so one way that I really do think about it as having like these different like buckets, if you will, of like where I'm putting people in my life, which sounds really weird. And just like the organization of it. But I think, like say you go out on a date with somebody and he's really cool, like you want to get to know him more, but maybe aren't feeling so compelled, or maybe he's a really bad kisser.
Ooh, this sounds recent.
Sounds like something I personally went through. And so it's like, okay, well, you're cool, but like it's not there. Like where do you go from there? Like Mike, what would you say to a guy that felt like say I message this guy and he's your friend or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, you're cool, but I don't really feel like I don't feel the chemistry there. What would you say to that guy?
So aside from what kind of like what would I say to him?
Yeah, what would
I mean
if your buddy came up to you and was like, yeah, this happened, would you be like, oh, that fucking blows? Or like,
all right, so I can't fix the bad kissing part.
Okay, well, obviously I didn't tell the guy he was a bad kisser.
Yes, please do, by the way.
Hold on.
How do you tell?
Yeah.
We could go down a rabbit
if
hole
you want
there.
to be straight up with somebody and you want to better them as a person, you have to be honest with them. That's me.
I told him the chemistry wasn't there.
If you thought that I was a bad kisser, I would want you to tell me that, and I'd be like, no, I'm not, but
Okay,
I'll
well,
work on it.
What's the point of saying it if I said that you are?
What's the point of saying it? Well, now I have a reason. I'm not left in the fucking dark, and like I understand what went wrong, other than overthinking it and being like, shit, did I do 9 different things wrong? Like I thought everything was going well.
Even if I'm like, oh, I'm like, the chemistry is not there.
First of all, yeah,
which to me, it's, well, and I think, okay, maybe like being a bad kisser, yeah, that sounds harsh, but there's different people that like being kissed in certain ways. I personally don't love a dead fish being thrown all over my face, but some people do. Some people like other, like
fish.
biting. So, I mean, it's not my cup of tea. Right. And maybe there's some other girl that he's made out with. Maybe the reason he kisses that way, because it's not like he's 16. The reason he kisses that way is probably because
he practiced on his mom.
Maybe.
No. So what happened there? I mean, I can already tell. Like, first of all, if he's a bad kisser, there's probably, you said lack of chemistry. There's probably a million other things that you also detected out of him that you weren't attracted to. Am I wrong?
I mean, honestly, like physically as a person, very much my type. Like I thought he was really hot. As far as like conversation, kind of typical first date, like a little awkward at times, but not horrible.
Let me ask you, when he asked you out, how did that go? Like, how did he ask you out? Did he tell you what he wanted to do, or did he ask you what you liked?
Shit, I don't even honestly remember. I do know that at some point in the conversation, as it does, Lazarus came up.
I was about to say, if no one in the room, we have a studio audience, by the way. If no one in the room and or listening knows, Marie does all of her first dates at Lazarus. Like, it's a thing.
For the most part.
Also, if you don't know, whenever we say Lazarus or mention a brewery by name, you're supposed to take a drink.
Yeah. And we're not referring to Lazarus from the Bible, even though that's where the namesake. But yeah, no. So I mentioned at one point that Lazarus was my favorite place. He was like, I've never been there, and I was like, well, we should go. And I will say he was persistent in terms of like getting me to meet up with him.
Okay, well, that doesn't really count for anything, but the fact that you kind of set the place and he like kind of allowed you to do that, that's just one sign of being passive. I'm just saying, maybe this isn't a turnoff for you. Maybe consciously it's not. Maybe subconsciously it is. But if I instead told you, like, hey, we're going to this Italian restaurant Thursday night, 7:00, that's the better way to do it. That's being more assertive, and I think women are more attracted to that.
I'm going to say yes, but also if somebody has given you clues in a conversation about like what they like or where they like to go, I do think it's also really applicable and relevant for you to be like, oh, well, let's do that for our first date. Mm-hmm. Like this is, and also you're like, okay, this is somewhere that this other person is very comfortable. If we were having a conversation, you knew I loved Italian food, then that would be like completely relevant. But, I think it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah. The fact is that I'm setting the appointment though, right? I'm like, okay, this is like, I'm making the decision. I'm like, look, we're doing this. Let's do this.
No, you're right. And he was definitely asking more so than telling.
Right. And it's more passive, which ultimately you're probably not attracted to.
Well, yeah.
Right.
But, I mean, to loop it all back to being a shitty kisser.
Which is apparently the topic of this episode at this point.
The new topic.
I can't help him.
No, I mean, I think... Okay, but...
We're launching a new coaching service. Mike is going to teach you how to kiss.
Oh, my God.
I'm making sure women get married, and now I'm teaching people how to kiss.
So, no, so I think... So, and like with physical attraction, chemistry, all that, like you only have so much control over that. Like, I guess if you're a bad kisser, you can probably practice on a pillow like you did when you were in like 6th grade.
No.
If you're a psychopath. But, I mean, to my point, like all I said to him was like, look, I just don't think that we have the chemistry. You've got a buddy, and he says that he's like, look, like this girl, like we went out, because he was like, oh no, I don't think. He's like, I mean, I disagree with you, but okay. And I was like, were you there? Because I was there, and I don't see the same thing. So if this guy came up to you and he's like, yeah, no, I went out with this girl, we had a great time. She told me like a week or so later that she wasn't feeling the chemistry. Would you be deep diving into some of these things that we've already touched on in terms of, being more passive and being a nice guy? Or would you just be like, oh, it must have been, you must be a shitty kisser. You must have been bad in bed. Which I didn't have sex with him, by the way, because he was a bad kisser.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I can't. I mean, how often do you run into that shit, though? Like, at this age, most people can kiss. It's usually not a factor. So I would immediately dive into, like, what else did you do wrong? Really? Really? It's common?
I mean... Yeah.
It's not that fucking hard.
Everybody wants something different when they like with kissing, and like we can get into hooking up and like all of that shit, but everybody has kind of a different palate.
Sure. I haven't had a bad kiss in like fucking 20 years. Like,
well, you're lucky.
That's what you think. You don't
know.
I
know. No. Moving on.
Okay. Let's move on because this is literally not an episode about Marie's
bad kisser.
Marie breaking up with this guy who she wasn't dating. Let's talk about chemistry. Chemistry is something
that's where I was going.
Think we can right. So you with kissing him, you realized you didn't have chemistry.
Right.
Chemistry, we talked about it a little bit offline earlier. It's not just physical. Like chemistry is beyond physical attraction. As y'all may know, I'm not a big fan of the word vibe, even though I use it a lot. But I think with chemistry, it is. It's just it's a vibe with someone, right? Where I think it's a couple things. For sure, just if you're sitting at a bar or a restaurant, or I guess if you're on Zoom, if you're still virtual dating, clearly
FaceTime, guys, FaceTime.
Clearly we're not. Did you kiss him over FaceTime?
Oh God.
Anyways.
Kiss me through the phone.
Ew. So I digress. For me, chemistry, I think, is it's something that sparks a little bit of an excitement, right? Where it's just, you maybe have just this fucking awesome conversation. You're laughing your butts off. Your butts off? You're fucking laughing your butts off. Anyways. Also, though, I feel like if you're highly attracted to someone, that can kind of spark that initial kind of chemistry too. Mm-hmm. I think it comes in different forms. It's on a spectrum. But when we look at chemistry, I do think it's more integrated. It's looking at a couple different things. Like you said, aside from the kissing, didn't really feel like you had chemistry. I had a really awesome fun date the other day, but it wasn't I friend zoned him, and it's worked out. We're actually friends now, but essentially there just wasn't that feeling, that excitement, that kind of twinge. I know
butterflies.
I knew you were gonna say that.
So to dive into that, I would have to be there and see what this guy did, but I mean, chemistry is a hard one. It's really hard to find a perfect chemistry with somebody, but I at least can explain the steps in getting there with somebody, and it just comes down to confidence and knowing who you are as a man. But just being in tune with yourself basically just helps you bleed out confidence, and once that happens, you become that much more attractive to women.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's totally valid. You wanted to say something?
Do we feel like nice guys are less confident?
I feel like that's what we're saying.
I think that's, yeah. I wonder if that's kind of part of it.
It's kind of generalizing, but yeah, it's definitely a high percentage of it, I would say.
Yeah, because something else that we had kind of touched on in our offline conversations too, right, is those guys that are oh yeah, I'm such a nice guy. And the guy that is saying that more than likely is not a nice guy. He's usually a dick. And there is a certain level of, based in my personal experiences with guys like that they do have this almost overinflated ego. So maybe Mike, is there balance?
The guys who claim they're nice guys are probably the same ones showing up at feminist marches with their 6 girlfriends, trying to act like, they actually care about that shit.
Woof. Tell me how you honest. Really feel.
I know a guy in Boston fucking on par with that. And he was that exact.
So are you saying that he's using movements like feminism to get with women?
Yeah, basically saying, I'm a nice guy.
I'm a nice guy. I care about things that you care about.
Yeah.
But I don't really. I just want to fuck you.
Correct.
That makes sense. With it.
Michelle's texting.
I'm literally texting Mitch so that he can open the champagne. Mitch, just pull the wrapper off. And then use the towel to pull the cork out. Also, that seems really sexual.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I'm curious. If you if you're friend zoned, can you get out of that?
No, probably not. No, you.
So concrete.
So well, no. Most women decide if they're attracted to you in the first 5 seconds of meeting you, and if they don't sense confidence or, essentially, if they're not immediately attracted to you, you're kind of fucked.
So I'm going to counter that a little bit. I think there are literally stats that for guys I think it's like you said 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and it's there or it's not. Women, yes, like we see someone maybe, oh God, y'all, I saw a dude shirtless, super cute with an 8-week-old puppy today.
Oh no.
Dead. Yeah. I was like very close to him.
There are literally Instagram accounts for that because of how much we love it.
No, but so with women, of course, like everyone is visual, right? Like everyone is like, oh, immediately, like I appreciate that. I don't. That's my type. That's not. However, I do feel like, and I've like heard of studies around this too. For women, it's women are more likely to become more attracted to someone over time and conversation and interaction, whereas guys are just more visual, more physical up front.
No, you're tweaking that idea, I think. No. It does take women time to become attracted to men. That's a fact. But that initial attraction still has to be there, I think. You can't just see some guy who's, shoulders are, slouched, isn't interesting, and then like give that guy time and eventually you'll become attracted to him. It's not like that.
It's not. I would say, okay, we can say it's not like that 99% of the time.
Yes.
I think there are scenarios where that happens.
Yeah.
But I do feel like in general for guys who are attracted to women, there's that initial, and you just like you don't get past that. I do feel like for women attracted to men, I think there's more of a build. Like of course there's like he's hot or he's not, and then it can change. But I think women are more likely to change their perception of someone based on other factors, whereas when it comes to attraction, guys are typically more set in their initial analysis.
Marie, what do you think?
I agree with both of you. I think that you can
No, take one side.
No, I can agree with whoever I want.
Fight.
No, I think based on like my experiences and like friends and everything, I think I'm willing personally typically to give somebody a little bit more of a chance. So, dead fish guy, definitely considered, and that was why it took me so long to get back to him, was just because I was like, well, should I give him another chance? Should I just say no? Like where like I'm like, But then at the end of the day, like it does kind of come down to like, okay, it's black or white. Do you want like something more physical with this person or do you not? Like I think about it at the end of the date, like say the first date, you go out with somebody and you're like, okay, goodbye. You're standing at your car or your, apartment, like door or whatever. And it's that moment of like, okay, do we kiss? And in my experiences, if I don't want to kiss you right then, I'm probably never going to want to kiss you. And in other circumstances, maybe you kiss and it's not that great. Or maybe it's like awkward. Like that's happened too. Like where it's like, oh, like you're both really nervous and you accidentally break somebody's glasses.
Also happened to Marie in the last couple weeks.
This is so shady.
She's on a roll. Her dating is going really well. Same.
Oh yeah, we never did mention the fact that I'm not in a relationship anymore.
Next episode.
Woof.
Gotta renew that farmersonly.com membership.
Mm-hmm. I love going out to the farm.
Remember when we had hope that for like 10 seconds we could go ride horses on that guy's ranch?
Oh, R.I.P.
Then he unmatched me. I didn't even get to ask about the horses.
You didn't even get to friend zone him for the horses.
Ugh. Dating.
Woof. Fuck, where were we? No, okay. So you can have that chemistry. You can not. Maybe it's awkward the first time, but at the end of the day, when you get home and you kind of have some time to like mull it over, like, do you want more? Like, do you want to be physical with that person? And I think, to Mike's point, if you want chemistry, then you want chemistry. Like, if you want to have, sorry guys, my dog is being crazy. Okay, so if you want to hook up with somebody, then you want to hook up with them, and you're probably not going to know from not wanting to hook up with somebody to wanting to hook up with them. Like, you probably can't reverse that, I guess, is my long-winded explanation of that.
Yeah, if you fuck up too many things throughout a date, like, it's not going to happen. And sometimes the reason behind that is a lot of guys are more passive than assertive.
It's not always that, though. Like, there's a lot of other factors. It kind of ties into, though, just this idea of having like different buckets, right? And our friend Mitch did a good job of explaining this earlier today. But essentially, he had mentioned that guys typically have, and I guess it probably goes both ways, but it's essentially like you have a couple of buckets when it comes to friendships with people of the opposite sex. So it's
Or the sex you're attracted to.
Or the sex you're attracted to. Yes. Thank you. It's typically, so friends who you could see yourself in, like, you're just friends for, like, maybe you have mutual friends, maybe your neighbors, at Lennox party. That's all I'm going to say. But maybe, whatever, but you see yourself, you're like, this is someone I could date. This is someone I could, like, see myself being in a relationship. That's one bucket. The second bucket is, like, you're probably just, like, highly attracted to someone. You're like, oh, I could definitely hook up, or I want to hook up with that person. Whether you ever express that or act on it or not, just having that, like, you're like, oh, my neighbor Marie is hot as fuck. Like, I would hook up with her, right? Whatever it is. And then there's the other bucket where it's just, like, you're just friends with those people. You don't have any kind of, like, relationship or dating, whatever. And I can see Mike twitching. He has a different opinion on this, I think. But I do feel like there are kind of those buckets when it comes to being friends with someone who is of the gender that you are attracted to.
I want to know who has control of that. Could it go either way? Or, like, because I feel like, at least based on, like, the conversations we've had with Mike about this, like, it sounds like the woman is typically like yes or no, and the guy might just always be like, let's fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, no, all right.
I mean, probably. What are you asking me? I don't get it. I don't get the question.
Can you repeat the question in different words? Can you use the word? Oh, the voices are back.
The voices. we're schizophrenic here too. It's fine. No, so who's in control of the narrative of, like, who goes into which bucket? Like, is it the chick that's deciding, or, like, is it the girl that's like, yeah, I want to be just friends, and the guy just has to kind of go with it? Or can the guy, like, kind of take control of that narrative?
Loon. I mean, Loon.
She has a lot of opinions about this.
No, I think what Maria is saying is, it seems like when it comes to friend zoning, what I think she's saying is, it seems like girls, no matter kind of the situation, are typically influencing the narrative, if not
based on the conversation that we've had thus far.
Yeah, I mean, as a guy, like, we're courting women, right? So yes, you're correct. It's like, I am trying my best here to be attractive to you, and it's really up to you if you want to continue things, I guess. I don't know. So yes. So
as a guy, like, is there anything you think you can do to influence that narrative?
Yeah.
Like,
be confident and
that's
assertive.
it?
Be confident and assertive.
How does one learn confidence?
You have faith in who you are as a person, and you like who you are. and you think that you're somebody who deserves somebody else.
Also, I just feel like taking the time, again, especially for people who are like recently out of relationships, I think taking the time to like work on yourself and live in that uncomfortable zone of like having to just do your own shit, it really, really does help you when you go into relationships, because you're established in things. Like, obviously everyone can like learn new hobbies and change and stuff like that, but I do think that like taking that time to just like really get a feel for how you as like an adult, like I went into my last relationship as a 19-year-old and I came out of it as like a fully functioning adult, and so there's a lot of change that happens there, and like learning who I was as an adult is important. I also think because we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but I think like taking some time and doing some therapy can be beneficial to literally everyone. Like Mike had mentioned, he did some work, and I actually just recently was like, you know what, I think I need to take a step back, and I want to just kind of learn a little bit more about how to manage things and where I'm at. And so just as kind of a plug for not being afraid to mental health and not being afraid to take that step and say, you know what, I'm not feeling 100%. I want to talk to somebody, or I want to figure out how to manage my anxiety, or whatever it is. I think that's like super, super important. And that can help you get to a point where, like you said, you love yourself, you're confident, things like that. Like, I think that's a step you can take.
Well, and that's why I was poking you, Mike, is just because like that's not necessarily something that you can always teach yourself. Right? So.
What do you mean that's not something you teach yourself?
I mean, you don't usually wake up one morning and be like entirely confident in your own skin.
No, you have to take care of your own shit. So like, yeah, out of right after my breakup, I told myself, I was like, I'm not dating for like a year or two, because like I need to figure out who the fuck I am and what I like again, because I was so entangled.
Yeah.
To take Will Smith's thing anyway.
Oh God.
No. You become wrapped up in a relationship and codependent occasionally, and recognizing that is pretty key. And that's why after a breakup, if you're feeling alone, that's probably why. So now you need to focus on yourself. Yeah, go to therapy, 100%. I did. Read self-help books for sure, and start like taking the steps to actually enjoying your life by yourself without somebody else, because you don't need anybody.
It's okay to be alone.
Yep.
You do you, boo. No, really, that's like a motto. It's not on a t-shirt yet, but that's maybe like,
well, that's because we can't coin that. 2021.
I think to try to kind of like take it back to the topic, talking more about the friend zone. Go ahead.
I was going to ask if do you feel like you've ever dated a guy that you would say was like a quote unquote nice guy? She's thinking.
While you think, I definitely was a nice guy. Still am a nice guy, but I was by definition a nice guy in my last 3 relationships, and like because of that, I identified where I went wrong and what I could have done differently to fix it. And honestly, like I identified probably 2 of the 3 shouldn't have even been a relationship. I should have seen red flags initially and had the balls to be like, hey, yeah, this isn't working. Goodbye. But I learned that now.
And so do you feel like you didn't put your foot down because you were just being too nice?
Yeah. So I dealt with alcohol.
Okay.
I dealt with alcoholism. Not me, her. And yeah, I definitely should have put my foot down harder. And when it came to breaking up, I kind of dragged it along, and honestly, I should have, been more firm and more assertive and been like, hey, we're ending this now because you have problems. You have to figure yourself out, and it's not working. So
she was essentially taking you down with her.
Yeah.
I think that happens a lot with like when it comes to addiction. We can fucking go down a rabbit hole there, but
I was ultimately codependent. So now that I'm like finding myself, feeling a lot better.
Find yourself.
Is that a real song?
I don't know.
It is now. You heard it here first, guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awkward silence.
Awkward transition. One of our other bullet points is around when one person, I feel like I'm far away. Yeah, there we go. Awkward transition. So one of our other things that we wanted to talk about is like if one person in the dynamic wants to be like strictly just friends and the other person has feelings or likes them or is attracted, I feel like there's so much to unpack there.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to unpack there because a few things can happen. One is that it can just be what it is, right? So if the person
awkward,
it just be like that sometimes. No, but what I'm saying is if the person who has, we'll say has feelings, right? Whether it's, sexual or physical or, emotional, whatever it is. If that person is a more passive person, they may never like approach the other person and shoot, like they may never shoot their shot.
Mm-hmm.
They may just, and again, this goes, but like genders, preferences, all of it. Like this goes both ways. They may just, be like, oh, well, if something happens in the future, it does. But
we
they may
see
just
it in like every rom-com ever.
Don't go there.
But no.
Movies are so toxic to this whole fucking idea. No, they are. They romanticize shit. It's all fake. Don't take dating advice from rom-coms. That's all I'm saying.
That's not what I'm saying.
Take your dating advice from
Mike, the producer.
You're goddamn right. Yes.
A podcast of 3 single people right now.
We're really good at getting
We're
people
experts.
We're really good at getting people into relationships. Clearly, just not ours. Oh, it's the cobbler's son.
What?
Oh, so basically,
the one movie you've seen.
It's not a movie. It's a phrase or term. Basically, it's like the shoe cobbler, because he's always making shoes for other people. He doesn't make shoes for himself or his child. So like we're always giving dating advice to other people, but we don't have it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
those who can't do teach.
Yeah. Essentially. Okay. No, so let's
teach you.
Let's talk about this.
Exactly.
Do you guys have any examples that you know of situations where either you liked someone that is a friend and they didn't reciprocate, or someone liked you and you didn't reciprocate, and how did you handle that?
Dude, this literally happened 3 times in the last week with me.
Wow.
Both directions too.
Woof.
So, yeah.
Both what?
Both directions. Like why? What? No, like I did it to somebody and it was done to me. And guess what? Like I feel fucking great. And those people feel great because we're mature adults, we're comfortable with ourselves, and we communicated effectively before we got too serious.
So I think, when it comes to like a guy or whatever, like maybe, how many guys talk too much? I don't know. I'm trying to think about that. But can you, like, Michelle, like if a guy wanted to be in a relationship with you, but you just wanted to be friends with him, like what would be your take on that? Like how would you respond in that situation?
That's an excellent question. Happens all the time.
So professional.
So many, gifts just arrive at my door. So many suitors,
flowers.
I'm never ghosted or friend zoned.
No.
No. So it's interesting when you talk about getting into a relationship, I would probably take it a step back because I don't think I get that far where someone doesn't know where I stand. So if we take it a step back to someone I'm hanging out with that maybe they're interested in dating me, I'm a pretty perceptive person, so I'm almost to a fault, I would say, where I'm like, you too, right? Like hyper analyzing things. So I'm always so aware of body language, chatting, like all this kind of stuff, like text, the way someone interacts. Like I just feel like I like overanalyze and I'm hyper aware of it, and I try to be ahead of it, which is where I said also like I'm over communicative. Like like it's a real thing. I either say things before I need to and or go like a step beyond. But yeah, for example, like if I was hanging out with someone and it was like a group thing. So we have this like pretty fucking dope ass friend group within our apartment building that we live in. And if one of those people who like we've been hanging out with pretty regularly came out of nowhere and I wasn't like reading it or expecting it, and they were like, hey, you know, like, I'm so glad we've been hanging out. I really like you. I would take a step back and I would kind of, the first thing I would do is like evaluate like, oh, you know, is this a potential person that I'm interested in? Maybe I assumed because of the circumstances that I was just like, we're all friends. I would take a step back. I would evaluate like, is this someone I'm interested in that I haven't thought about because of the circumstances? Because I just assumed we're all in the friend zone. No, I mean, really though.
No, yeah.
It's like, that's kind of how I'm with like coworkers too. Like
definitely.
I don't date anyone from work, which I think is also going to be like a different episode.
LOL.
But I put them in that bucket immediately. Like there are certain things where I'm like, they go in that bucket. So if someone came out and I didn't expect it, I would need to kind of take that step back and decide, oh, if I were to move them from this bucket to the other one, what does that look like? Is that something I want to do? Am I interested? And then honestly, if I couldn't see it, you know, in one of those different buckets, I would just be straightforward and say, hey, wow, like, I'm so flattered. I hope I didn't do anything to give you the wrong impression, but I like really just am stoked on our friendship. And it can be that simple, you know. You don't have to say.
Sucks to hear though.
It sucks to hear, and it's hard. I think it's hard to shoot your shot in that situation because
Definitely.
you're so much more invested than if you're online or at a bar.
But it's a guy's job to shoot your shot, and it's also a guy's job to not be butthurt when you get rejected or denied. It's going to happen. And it doesn't mean that, you know, it doesn't mean that you're not up to par. It just means they're not interested in you. So don't take it personally. Don't get insecure about it. Be fucking mature and have a responsible response.
Could you still be friends with somebody after a conversation like that, Mike?
Yeah, I am.
And there you have it.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I feel like there have definitely been those situations at different points in my life, because I think when you have that conversation early enough, you can be friends, because like nothing.
Nip it in the bud.
Like, you know, we talked about in another episode, like hooking up with an ex, something like that, or once you've already like slept with someone. I think when you have the conversation before any of those types of things potentially happen, like you really can be friends. I think it's a maturity thing. I feel like if someone is really immature, they're gonna get butthurt and they're gonna have their own issues with it. But that comes back to like working on yourself and your confidence and your ability to like y'all, we all need to be better at processing rejection, and also just accepting like someone doesn't like you. Okay, cool. It's not that you're a shitty person, you're just not their person.
Yeah. Everybody's a little bit different when it comes to those things. One of the other things that we had kind of touched on earlier, on the other end of the spectrum, right? Because we've talked about nice guys getting friend zoned. So, and I say this to like call myself out, but like, why do we as women love assholes?
Bad boys.
Bad boy.
And is there? I'm sorry. Continue.
No. Yeah.
I was gonna say, and is there like can we like assholes and also like nice guys? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of shit that comes with that.
So yeah, you see a lot of douchebags, assholes, attracting, you know, flocks of women, right? And there's a reason for that. It's because they exude confidence. It's because they're on their own path. They don't care what people think. And it's easy for a decent person to also have those traits. You just need to learn kind of the ins and outs of what goes into it and why women are attracted to that.
So why are women attracted to that?
It's confidence mainly. It's like
it all comes back to it.
So like, yeah, like it's, if I'm an asshole if Marie likes me and I don't show her the time of day,
then I like you way more.
then you probably like me way more. That's just how we are as humans. So nice guys typically respond to that as like, oh shit, I need to like do things to make this person like me, and like I fully, yeah, that's pretty much.
Which actually kind of ends up being the opposite. Mm-hmm. So this is super interesting because it made me think about, for me, I get really, really overwhelmed if someone is kind of doing too much, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So
same.
I had a situation where I had explicitly told someone, like, hey, just so you know, like, I hate being like, oh, I'm independent, but like, I've got a lot of shit going on. Like, I'm a busy person. I'm not texting all day. I don't want you to text me all day. I want space in between hanging out. I don't, if we're just starting to date, like, this sounds bad, but like, I don't want to see you every day.
Yeah.
I want to see you, but like, I need the time to like do my shit. And I had literally had this conversation with someone, and then the next day they were like, hey, I know you're working. I know you said you're busy, but like, I'm going to like order some food. Do you want me to order you some food? Like, it was this whole thing. And I was like, no, I'm good. And they like went on this whole thing. It just turned into like a weird conversation, but it was like, I was so overwhelmed by the way they were like pushing this particular thing. And I think that's also in line with, I mean, I guess gifting is, for some people, but just there are certain things where I'm just like, it's too much. Like, I'm literally asking for space. And I think if you have to ask for it, you're already beyond the point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course. It comes off as neediness. And if you're too...
codependency.
Yeah, and if you're too available, then that's what it looks like. It's like, oh, this person isn't worth anything. They're not worth my time because they don't have anything going on themselves.
Well, it's like, I know what I look for is definitely somebody that has their own life. They do their own thing throughout the day. And like, I would love it if, okay, you maybe surprise me send a favor to my house or something for lunch because, I don't know, you wanted to. Like, that's nice. And it would be excessive if that person did that every day. But when they're like messaging you and they're like, oh, like, do you want to come over? Like, I'm going to get this. Do you want something too? Like, then it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
I'm literally getting anxious with this like interpretation of that. It's
same.
It's too much.
And it's like, you don't, on some level, like the bad boy, the asshole, the guy like who maybe doesn't always give you the time of day, but you still that makes you want their attention. I think there's something, the cliche, like absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Cat and mouse.
There's a lot of truth to that. And I'm not saying that we need to play games. But I am saying that, like,
what it is, though.
You don't need to no, you don't. I'm not a proponent of playing games, but I do think that I think if you truly are confident and independent in yourself, you're not playing a game with the other person. Like, I've got somebody right now that I have 3 unread messages from some guy that I'm talking to that I've never met, but whatever. I'm not texting him back right now, not because I'm waiting 2 hours to respond to him, but because I'm fucking busy. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, but you can't like really cognizantly like be like, or cognitively be like, oh, hey, like I'm going to not message you after this amount of time, or I'm going to do this because you did that. That's to me, that's juvenile.
Yeah. I really don't think it's about games. I think it's about someone being like genuinely having a lot of shit going on. Mm-hmm. Because obviously, like, we work, we have this podcast actually takes a lot more time than y'all even know. But like we have this, like we have side projects. We have
a social life.
We have a social life. We have friends. We drink beer. That's important. No, but to me, it's just like so attractive when someone isn't available genuinely, like when they genuinely have other stuff to do and they're not just like, yeah, I can't hang out until 3 Thursdays on the 1st of next month just because. But if I can
only hang out at the full moon.
Yeah. Oh God. Save me. But I I just respect a busy person, because to me, that's ambition and drive. And I'm not saying nice guys don't have that, but maybe nice guys don't show it as much. Maybe it's not as visible.
No.
I think
is nice guys think that in order to show affection or interest, they need to overcompensate,
be available,
and it's actually the opposite. So that's where a lot of people fall short.
Yeah, I think it's that they're aggressively not playing a game. Right. And they will, as much as we want somebody to drop everything for us, I want you to drop everything for me if I'm in a fucking crisis. But like, if like I say, hey, do you want to get dinner on Friday? And you're like, no, I'm busy. Like, I don't want you to drop everything to make plans with me, right, because that's too available. Yeah. Like, we all have that friend that like only ever hangs out with you when they bring their boyfriend, or vice versa. Mm-hmm.
Or they only hang out because their boyfriend or girlfriend is busy. Mm-hmm. Ugh, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of diving into what you were saying, like, not diving in, we're gonna skim across. One thing, and like I got this from one of my ex-boyfriends, but it was he would talk about me time, like me time. And I was like, what? And he's like, I just need some me time. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to sit on the couch and play video games, or I'm going to go drink, with the boys. I'm like, but I love drinking with the boys. It's like, no, like it's me time. Mm-hmm. And it sounds silly, but it is so fucking important. Yeah. It is so important. Whether you're just starting to date, whether you're in a relationship, like just having some me time, having some separate things. You don't like, I think as people date longer, and again, I think this goes into like a future episode, you do tend to have more of like similar interests, and you start to kind of grow your life together. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you've got to have that different shit. Otherwise it just kind of like, it kind of implodes.
Definitely.
Or it doesn't always.
Well, or the relationship ends at some point or another, whether or not it implodes. And then what do you have? Like we kind of have talked about before, like you end up kind of, okay, well now what?
Yeah. You become codependent very easily.
Yeah.
This is your show, but if you want to wrap it there, get some feedback and see if anybody else wants to dive deeper. I feel like some people might have more scenarios that they want us to run through. I don't know.
I think we can definitely do a second follow-up on this at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I think ultimately the friend zone, it is what it is. I think I think being like more like, if you're going into a date, just being okay with the fact, especially if you're going from online to in person, being okay with the fact that you might get friend zoned. Like, but if that person
is someone,
that's not
rejection either.
It's not rejection. Like, rejection is if you got ghosted, or if someone says, hey, I never want to fucking see you again.
You suck.
You're literally the worst person I've ever spent time with. I'm sad I like wasted. Hopefully no one says that. That's horrible. But no, I think a couple kind of like just key takeaways in my opinion. One is with being a nice guy, it's more about being confident and being assertive, even if you have to fake it, or being like a nice girl, like just being a little more confident. And if you're in a place where you're not and you don't know how to, seek out resources, whether it's books, whether it's podcasts, probably not ours, but but there's a lot of really like good ones out there, podcasts. But just like seek out the type of things that are going to like motivate you and get you there. Put on, like, honestly, like play a song that gets you hyped up, right? And then just with the, with the friend zone, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. You can get out of it, but it takes a very long time, and it
takes a very real and direct conversation, I think, to move from the friend bucket to the relationship potential bucket. And you have to be confident when you approach that conversation, and you also have to be like okay with the fact that the other person may not see the situation the same way that you do.
And you have to be mature about it. Like, I think with everything, and we talk about this a lot in Shoot Your Shot, but it's just if you go up to someone and you say hey or whatever and they reject you, be okay with that. Don't be a dick about it. Don't get butthurt. Like, yeah, your feelings, you can't control. Like, if your feelings get hurt, they get hurt. Mm-hmm. But understand that that is a likely outcome of making that move.
Well, and that person isn't saying no because they want to hurt your feelings. It's not malicious. They're just, honestly, in the long term, in the grand scheme of things, they're protecting you. Because they're protecting you from down the road, like maybe approaching something and you getting more invested and them breaking your heart.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I would say, like, bottom line, you can be a nice guy and be attractive at the same time, but in order to do so, you have to find yourself, love yourself, respect yourself, and know that anytime somebody is not interested in you, that's their loss, honestly.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you.
Love it.
So fucking much. We know Daniela Hannah 68 is still here. So we appreciate you. Thank you for your sponsorship of the podcast.
I wonder if Miriam March 7 will ever start to listen.
If you've made it this far, if you're following us, honestly, we genuinely just appreciate it. We love doing this, but we love that we can kind of be a voice and have like kind of an impact on people to some degree.
We can't do it without you guys.
We need listeners to be podcasters. If you're on Spotify, you can follow us. On SoundCloud, you can follow us. You can comment. Instagram is kind of our main channel right now, so please follow Swipe in the City. You can also hit up our personal Instagrams. If you ever have a topic idea, if you have questions, if you want us to look at your dating app profile, like, we are here for it. Like, we live for this shit.
We love it.
Send us a DM. We'll obviously plug Mike and shoot out his information, all of his personal information, including his apartment number. So you can show up and be greeted by 2 German Shepherds.
Good luck.
Good luck. Anyways, well, cheers,
thank you guys.
bitches.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Chaz.
Chaz.
Chaz.